Send for. Got the floor to go to that location also.
In 2010, I actually decided to take my own life due to PTSD.
It was his commander, and he said, you know, you might be having to fly out here. Your brother, Andrew, he's in the ICU right now, and he might not make it.
Yeah, when I got back, I didn't think anything was wrong with me. I mean, I ended up attempting suicide when I got back, you know, fucking hung myself.
I overdosed on my medication, and I don't understand why I'm still alive. I don't understand why. You know, it's like part of me wants to die.
My wife and I had gone out drinking with a few friends, and the night ended with me telling her to take me to a pawn shop so I could buy a shotgun. I wanted to kill myself that night.
I had two different plans at two different times. One plan was to shoot myself.
I mean, I had monsters who lived in my head every day. I mean, the smallest thing could set them off and make them like hungry for like my own blood, basically, just for me to like shoot myself.
I think the one that fucked me up the most was my friend, Winger. He, a month before going home, man, a month before we were done and gonna go home, November 5th. I remember the door was open and I was trying to figure out what the fuck was going on. I was like, somebody fucking OD'd, somebody fucking, what the fuck's going on, man? You know, and I remember seeing into the chew, and Winger was fucking, I could see his body laying there. And then I had an NCO come up. I was like, what is it, man? What the fuck's going on? He's like, it's Winger. I was like, what about him, man? What's wrong? He was like, he's dead, you know? And I was like, what do you mean he's dead? And he's like, he killed himself. He shot himself in the head. He's dead.
On a battlefield, there is no time to grieve. There are no formats or forums for them to have their grief. And so they carry it with them. And it can undermine their bodies, it undermines their minds, their emotions.
Knowing that somebody got killed, you know, that you knew, that you've trained with, that you've worked with, that's something that does stick with you.
You start realizing that your thoughts are a little off when you're thinking of the things you had done, shooting at, being shot at, all that, and you realize, wow, those were human beings. You know, I did look down those sights. And it just kind of messes you up a little bit.
Well, you never get over seeing like your, you know, your first, like your first real big injuries or casualties.
I don't care how high speed you are or how badass you are, that shit stays with you.
Eventually you just quit giving a fuck about everything. Quit caring if you live or die. You quit caring about everything.
I was having like a battle within myself, trying to justify the things I'd done with morals.
You just feel soulless sometimes.
I prided myself on being very stoic and in control of my feelings and not letting it show, and that served me well for a long time.
It's really hard for veterans because they're very stoic. They've been, you know, steeped in that stoic culture where you keep on this stoic facade and emotional pain, guilt, you know, all shame, any of that stuff, you know, that's just, you know, you just keep that to yourself.
Stoicism can be your greatest ally or your crippling enemy.
The it is the thing that nobody else should see.
going up to another unit and they're trying to pull the doors off of a burning Humvee and almost melting their hands to the bone, trying to get their friends out of this Humvee, and they're just screaming bloody murder inside this thing, and there's nothing you can do. And they're right there on the other side of this 3-inch plate of steel, and you cannot save their life.
To know that a person had to go through something like that where they were burnt alive really just eats away at you, you know?
The combat, the fighting, the death, you know, the trauma of seeing your buddy lose his leg, lose his arm, bleed out.
Or fucking picking a goddamn suicide bomber off of you in chunks and pieces. Or seeing dead kids.
Killing somebody the first time, that was pretty intense. You know, especially at a close range, and you know, you hearing that last gasp from someone. You know, that's an experience that it stays deep down in there forever. It's like a footprint in your mind.
Whether you suffer from PTSD or not, you know, once you've been in a combat theater, you know, once you've been there and you've experienced it and everything, you don't ever come home.
You know, just things racing through my head would just be like, okay, I need to come back. I need to come back. I need to come back. Just do what you can just to get back.
It was really bad because me and him were really close and we would do stuff together all the time. But we didn't do any of that anymore because he wasn't. It was really sad because he wasn't how he used to be.
I'd open the doors. I'd get up 8 times a night, pee at least 4 times a night, go upstairs, make sure all the windows are locked, make sure Courtney was good, go to the back door, make sure that was locked, check out the window, wake my wife up around 5 o'clock. Hey, can you watch me walk to my truck? Watch me turn it on, watch me leave, make sure no one's after me. Thought people were taking photos of me, things like that. That's how it was.
You could tell that he wasn't out of like army mode and stuff like that. Like he was still the same, like he kind of was like, made it seem like we were soldiers or something.
We were at some Harnett County fair or something like that. And Courtney was maybe 6 or 7. Just come back. Just got stationed back at Fort Bragg. And I'm like, Elle, what are you doing? She's like, what are you talking about? I said, what are you doing? I go, what are you doing? She goes, what are you talking about? I said, man, you need to scan the sector. She goes, what? She goes, you need to scan the sector. I said, someone's going to kidnap Courtney. Just out of the blue, just thinking like that.
And like he would get like more angry easier, like if he didn't take his medicine or something.
I've had a lot of veterans say that coming home was harder than being in the war zone.
I didn't even know. I don't know. I didn't even know till my wife packed her bags up. And she said, this better stop. Something better change. And I had no idea that I was really acting like that.
He quit taking his medication just not too long ago. And me and Courtney, I've already called my sister and told her I was coming out to North Carolina looking for jobs. I couldn't deal with it.
And she's told me, you know, I can't relate. I'm trying to relate. Help me relate. You know, that's when the frustration gets in. It's like, you know what? Forget about it. We'll talk about it later.
We've gone to our own counseling outside of the military with somebody who works with PTSD. He actually works at the VA hospital with people with PTSD, and I think he's helped me the most understand it. But even with him helping me understand it, you know, my question is it worth it? Is it worth it for my family sometimes? I still ask that every day.
They felt like they sacrificed and gave way beyond what the rest of us have given. And when they come home and that is not acknowledged and they are diminished and demeaned and dismissed, it's devastating.
I gave everything that I had, emotionally, physically, mentally, for so long. tirelessly. And I dedicated so much of myself. I even lost a little bit of myself. I'm forever altered by my experiences. So to kind of feel like a shoulder is turned or like a back is turned to, to you when you're starting to struggle, you feel betrayed.
The hardest thing for us to do is ask for help. And then when you ask for help and you meet with obstacles, it's even worse, because then you're just like, all right, screw it.
It doesn't matter if it's the family you grew up with since you were a kid. You'll never trust them the way you trust the guys that were at war with you. But the funny thing is, we come back from war with these same guys, but you still don't talk to each other about it.
What's the natural, normal thing for us to do when we hurt is to disconnect from it.
I see guys still wanting to hold on to it and not talk about it.
This is what Paul wrote. He said, once we got home, no one asked us about our experience. And even if they did, we lied or told stories about our buddies or some of the pranks or what the food was like. We did not tell them the truth. Why would we? Why would I want to burden my loved ones with my experiences of horror, of listening to the screams of the dying, of watching the dogs steal amputated limbs, of the chopper that landed with a huge canvas bag suspended under its belly while we were ordered to assemble 11 complete soldiers?
I went to my battalion medical officer and told him I was having trouble sleeping. I was having trouble, getting stuff off my mind. And, I went and talked to my chain of command afterwards and told them that I was going to enroll in treatment for, suspected post-traumatic stress.
It can be harder to seek treatment at the unit level because there's just such a huge negativity towards, having to take a knee.
I went and started seeing a counselor. So I saw this counselor for 2 months. She gave me this piece of paper. On this piece of paper, it says that this soldier cannot carry a weapon for this amount of time.
After I told my chain of command, they moved me from being a squad leader who was in charge of, 14 plus Marines, over to a company within the battalion that was non-deployable Marines.
I don't know why, but as soon as when someone needs some sort of assistance with counseling or anything in the behavioral health realm, it's just not very well received.
So I take this piece of paper and I go and bring it to my first sergeant. Well, this first sergeant pulled me out in front of a formation of about 100 soldiers, put a right hand on my shoulder and said, "This right here is a piece of shit soldier because he can no longer carry a loaded weapon."
I want to say about a month into my therapy, I had a gunnery sergeant who was in charge of the company, basically calling me the sorriest excuse for a sergeant that he'd ever seen.
The Army always says, "Oh, you can come and talk to us," but you couldn't go and talk. Because as soon as you went and talked to somebody about that and you said that was happening, they would make fun of you, demonize you, say that you're less than a man.
I went from being lead gunner and getting everybody home safe to a piece of shit soldier because I went and got mental health help.
Me asking for help immediately got all my responsibility taken away. My sense of pride in what I was doing as a squad leader was immediately gone, and I became one of the broke Marines.
When you're in combat, you got brothers in arms, You're watching each other's back. You come out of combat, you debrief, you laugh together, you share it. But when you come home, where's the brothers?
I felt completely abandoned by an institution and a brotherhood that I loved and still love to this day, more than anything I've ever loved in my life.
And I remember when I got back from Iraq, dude, I was, my parents, they didn't have any money, so they couldn't come and see me. They couldn't see me. And I lost my fiance to some fucktard back here, I had nothing. I got back and fucking I'm marching on the parade field out at fucking Fort Stewart, and I'm sitting there, I'm the troop that's sitting there with the Kevlar in his hand. I was that guy that was alone, looking around, seeing everybody hug their family and kiss their moms and dads, their wives, their girlfriends. I got nobody when I got home, man.
We have people that come home and they've had all these experiences, but then the culture and the community is not there to really listen to them, to listen to what their experience of war was.
Civilians want to be protected and feel safe. They don't want to know what it takes. Nobody does,
As a public, as civilians, for example, we don't want to hear the stories. It is too painful. We don't want to connect with that. We just want them to get better. We just want them to be the way they used to be.
It's nice to not have to think about it. But you've got that 1 to 2% of the population that does have to think about it and has witnessed it and has to live with it every day. And it's not an easy thing to do for us. And it's not an easy thing for other people to have to share that kind of share the weight of that.
My mom doesn't get it, doesn't want nothing to do with me. She wants me to be like her other daughters who are girly girls. They go shopping, whatever. I can't go shopping. I snap.
I got when I got back from the Army, when I got out in 2010, I ended up not leaving my house for 6 months, and I didn't want to go outside.
I can't do the nightclubs. They want to get dressed up and go out to the clubs and do. I can't do that. I get migraines. I don't like being around people. It's nerve-wracking for me.
Occasionally, I don't know how to explain it, but I'll be in a crowded area, and if it's one of those overcrowded bars where you're shoulder to shoulder and people keep bumping into you or touching you, my body will start heating up and my skin will start feeling red. My blood feels like it's boiling, and I start having this anxiety attack.
I honestly don't like being in crowds. I don't like being in big groups of people. I don't like being around people that much anymore.
There's plenty of times when I go grocery shopping, and I'll literally get a whole cart of groceries, get in line, and just get so frustrated because the person behind me is like I can feel them. I can sense somebody like breathing on me, and I have to leave. I leave with the cart right there, just go.
Thunderstorms, that's a big one, is the kind of thunder that shakes your house and makes the whole house vibrate. That's the kind that I can't sleep through. I won't be able to close my eyes, and I'll think about Iraq and explosions and things I experienced out there.
I started thinking about Vietnam. And I went, uh-oh. And as much as I said, uh-oh, what's this? These feelings just blew into me. Like getting hit by a huge wave. You have no control. And I was tumbling. And I started crying. And I didn't, it's like, fuck. And then I said to myself, maybe this is PTSD.
We have records of it that go back into ancient times. George Washington apparently had nightmares his whole life. He heard people scream, the dead screaming and that kind of thing. So it's been with us for a long time.
Here's what bothered me most about my unit is that there was a formation one day shortly after I came out and said that I needed mental health treatment and I needed to get my TBI looked at. There was a senior enlisted leader within my unit, and we had just gotten a drop of about 30 brand new Marines from the School of Infantry. I mean, first day in the fleet, second day in the fleet, somewhere around there. And they flat out called PTS fake. The leader said, you pull that punk card, I will fuck your career. But now there's an entire company of Marines being told that PTS is fake and that if they get help, their career is over. They were slotted to go to Afghanistan. So what happens when they come home?
By shutting these guys down from sharing what they're sharing, you could have just made them decide that they're just gonna take their own life because they can't share.
The Marine Corps, no joke, has all the resources in the world that any Marine could ever ask for. The problem is that as hard as they're trying to fight the stigma and to get people to be open-minded about PTS and TBI and, you know, invisible injuries and mental stress and combat stress and all that stuff, if they're afraid to go get it, the resources are worthless.
You feel like it means that you're weak. It's like, why can't I just do this shit on my own? But it's not. It's a lot tougher to ask for help than it is to just ignore your problem.
You're in denial about your emotions. You tell yourself that they're not appropriate. You tell yourself, you know, this is what I signed up for. This is my decision, so I need to handle everything, you know, that comes with it accordingly.
Our battle didn't end in Iraq or Afghanistan. Now we have a responsibility to ourselves, right? You're not fighting for the country now. You already did that. And we thank you for that. But now your battle and your mission is for yourself. And you can do that with your band of brothers a lot easier than you can doing it with yourself.
I did reach out a little bit through like social media. I felt silly about it, but you know, there comes a point where you have so much distress and sadness and inside of you, and so because you've already isolated yourself from everyone, you don't know who to go to.
Keep in contact with all your buddies and just from time to time give them a ring. You know, I remember I contacted one of my buddies, Mullins, a couple months ago, and when I called him, he was just crying because he was like, he was about to kill himself, and it was just at one of those right times. He's like, I've been trying to get people. He's like, I just feel alone. I don't know what else to do.
You know, there does come a time where the darkness subsides, and you don't need to be like me and nearly bring yourself to the end to realize that.
The reason I have that tattoo on my back shoulder is because I feel like the old me died that day. And he did die, but the new one came in this person I'm happy to be.